Welcome to Spoiler Talk, where we talk spoilers. I'm Kieran, and this is Jax. This week, I actually want to say something up front before we get into the movies we discussed. Basically, we watched Incendies, and we watched Predestination. So if you've seen these two films, you know why we watched both of them. But if you haven't seen either of them, or you haven't seen both of them, please don't watch this. These movies, I think, really are as good as the surprise they offer.
The spoilers will actually ruin it. Most times spoilers won't properly ruin something. These films...
Yeah, it's more one
utterly change.
I think one more than the other two, because I think one has a bit more to chew on, which we'll get into, and maybe we will agree.
One of them is totally... If you told me this is the ending of both the movies, one of them I would have been like, and then at the end I would have been like, I don't care, I already know. And the other one I would have been like, oh, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I would have had no enjoyment trying to figure out what was happening. So there, these movies, for a show called Spoiler Talk, where we talk spoilers, this time we're really talking spoilers in a different way.
Yeah, the enjoyment of the movie hinges on the fact that you don't know the end going in.
Unless you hate yourself.
Yeah, so go watch the movies. They're both worth watching, I think. They're definitely...
Depending on your mood.
Yeah.
If you're as tired and hate your job as much as I do, don't watch Incendies. That's all I'm saying.
But with that out of the way, what did you think of Incendies?
So, we'll start by saying, I watched them Incendies and Predestination.
Yep.
Because what we love doing here is picking two movies and having a thing. Usually, it's like, they both have meteors that we've got to blow up with scientists or whatever. Or something, you know.
Zombies.
Yeah, it's the zombie week. Or we're doing this. So, we're, remake. This time, I thought that you'd accidentally told me the connecting tissue of these two films. Right. And had forgotten. And then weeks later, like, these are the two films we're going to watch. So, I was like, they're time travel movies. But I'm not meant to know they're time travel movies. So that's what I expected. Fucking spoilers, Incendies is not a time travel movie. It's a very sad, long, incredibly sad war movie with no fun time travel. So the whole movie I'm like, what's the time travel movie?
No!
So about half an hour into the movie, I just had to pause it and just Google, because I was like,
is this the right thing?
Yeah, is this the right thing? I knew it was, because it's Denis V and all this stuff. I knew it was. But I was just like, what the fuck? Like, I need to know if... Maybe, because, if you're thinking it's a certain thing, I don't know, I was waiting for the time travel twist. So I was like, I need to just know. Because it was just so like, I feel like Kieran forgot he mentioned this thing. And knowing the titles of the movies, Predestination sounds like a time travel movie. And I saw the poster, it's all blue, and Ethan Hawke's like, ugh. And I'm like, oh, blue portal or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so Incendies really kind of like, at first I was like, oh, I'm not in the mood this week. So much going on with work. I'm so tired. I don't know if I can emotionally delve into a sad war movie. So there was the part of me that was like, but I really tried to
push it away.
Push that away. Get that out and just sit there and watch a movie. I'll start off by saying the first scene is utterly breathtaking. It's got a beautiful... I felt like the artist they used maybe 3 or 4 times with a song. They were either beautifully similar or the same artist.
Yeah.
I loved that song. There's a song at the start, and it's very much like a song by an artist. It feels like that,
Initially, I thought, does this fit? But then...
It totally doesn't fit, man. There's a bit where she's walking through a thing, and it's all like... And I'm like, this isn't sad. This is kind of moving the scene along. And I don't know, I felt like if it was the type of music I thought I would have expected in some movie, I'd just been so like, oh, I get it. Sadness. Everything sucks. But that first scene, we have a tree outside, it's beautiful. We come inside, we see a man with a gun, and then there's just these children being shaved, and this kid's just he's just looking at the camera. His face is kind of I don't know, just going through all these things, and right at the end, it just really tweaked into, and I was just like, oh my god, look at this. How did the director get that? How many times did they zoom in?
We also get a shot of his foot.
Oh, yeah. I just felt like Incendies is a tour de force of acting. Just so many scenes of people just talking and just someone's reaction of them just breaking down emotionally or just dealing with something really traumatic. It was really, really powerful. But overall, so long, and the movie has kind of a twist, not a twist at the end, but the movie's building to something where it's 2 hours and 10 minutes, 4 almost 2 hours, I was like,
Well, the setup is, so at the beginning of the
explain.
movie, 2 letters, one for the father, one for the son. And that's the premise of the film,
And
essentially.
the 2 twins of the mother have to find these people of the family they thought the dad was dead and a brother they didn't know.
Yes.
And I guess part of me was like, okay, so we're going on a journey figuring out. If we weren't cutting back to the most horrific flashbacks ever, I couldn't have watched this movie. It was so, like, the idea of them searching for this brother they don't know, doing all these crazy things just felt so, like...
You think he's dead at one point, and you think...
I guess
someone else.
part of me just felt like I wasn't connected to the twins.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
I don't know if you... Do you need to be? I don't think I was. I was connected to the mum. I mean, she's the...
Oh, no, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, the flashbacks coming to the mum were incredibly powerful. One of that starts and she's running through a forest. I'm like, who's this person? Boyfriend's dead. Family comes around her. Grandma's screaming. And I'm like, oh my.
Almost an honor killing. And then they save her, and then her life is thrown into turmoil.
There are so... Like, every time I cut to those scenes, like, there's a scene on a bus where I was like...
Yeah.
That was pretty fucked up. And then, like, there's a bit where they're on the bus, they get gunned down, there's her and a mother and a child, and then she saves the kid, and I was like, part of me was like, oh my god, is this going to kind of turn out to be like what Fantastic Beasts 2 and Where Are the Fantastic Beasts tried to do, where it's like, babies, switching, ships, just that kind of like, oh, mistaken identity and all that kind of stuff. So jumbled in that movie, but I was like, oh, is this going to be... No child's fucking shot in the face. And I was just like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes, not to say you're ever in the mood to watch that other movie, I don't know, I was just not in the mood to watch a movie where children were just dying. It's like kept cutting to what was presumably the brother, and he's like sniping these children. You're like, oh, is the missing son like one of the kids running away? Oh, it's probably the sniper.
Because he looks very similar.
And he's just shooting children. It's just like there's no context in it. They're just running through war-torn... I will say, before I kind of make it sound like I'm shitting on this movie, it's beautifully shot, it's beautifully acted, it's a really well-made film. I don't know, man. I just was so, like, bombarded with just, like, long scenes of sadness and just depression and just awfulness. I found it really, really hard to get into, like, really difficult. And I reckon 25 minutes before the end, I was like, I hate this. And I hate you for making me watch this. I hate this podcast for making me do this. Because I would have just turned it off immediately. I'd been like, oh, war film, no. Not today. Maybe one day, because I will eventually watch all of Denis Villeneuve's movies, because he's great. But then the movie ended, and the last 15 minutes happened, and I suddenly realized what the movie I was watching and what happened, and I was like, oh my god! Well, I was literally laughing. I was so shocked and so, like, horrified and so entertained, but I think you need to cut 30 minutes out, make it tighter, because at the end I wasn't like, oh.
See, it's funny you say this, because for me, this is your first time watching the movie,
Yes.
and for me it was my second time. It was actually my second time watching both these movies,
Yeah.
and I would say that I've kind of, after my first viewing of each of these movies, had a certain opinion of both of them, and now after watching them a second time, have a different opinion.
Okay, awesome.
In that, Incendies got better on a second
I can
viewing.
imagine.
Way better. Predestination, no.
Oh, no.
No. No, it's no good.
Oh, no!
It's not no good. I mean, I own it. I don't really buy movies anymore, and I've got...
What was
the
that?
Bluetooth.
Oh! Sounds like someone blowing through like a tube, like boom. Yeah. Oh.
Sounds so real.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Bluetooth speaker went off.
Okay, where's the...
So yeah, backing up.
So you hate Predestination?
I don't hate it. I just watching these two movies again. I realize Incendies is about something. It has themes. It has a point. It substantiates its own existence. I think by the end of the film, when the mother, the final letter. So the 2 letters get delivered to the father/son. And then the final letter is basically the mother saying...
Straight to the son.
Let's end this pointless, constant tit-for-tat aggression and killing and back and forth, and it's done now. This ends with me. I don't want any more to this. And essentially, re-watching the film now, you see that she gets into the position she's in because she's seeking vengeance. She wants revenge.
Yeah.
She wants revenge for a child she lost.
Mm-hmm.
She teams up with people she doesn't agree with, that we know ideologically she's opposed to go and do something horrific, to become the monster that she's obviously been trying to run away from, and then ends up in this horrific situation, entangled and embroiled, and everyone who follows this path of seeking retribution and vengeance ends up getting what they deserve, really. Not that she, I mean, what she got, I don't really think anyone deserves. Horrific revelation, and the disassociation at the pool, like when it happens, when you get there to the end, and when you realize what happens at the beginning.
When you realize that pool scene at the end, I actually had to flick through the movie again because I felt like I wasn't in for 40 minutes. Like it really just, there's a scene where she's like, "Oh, mum, what's up?" And the mum's just like, "Oh." And I was just like, what the fuck's happening?
What could possibly happen to earn that? And then they do it.
No, see, my issue was like, what the fuck is this? This seems so like, I don't know, it just felt so like, the trips are just so, I don't know. And then at the end, it's like, oh, fuck. It made me kind of reevaluate.
And then, so the first time you watch the film, you experience it, it washes over you, and then you come out the other end really just... the sting of the twist is what you're left with,
100%.
Or the revelation.
Revelation, I feel like, because I think doesn't matter. Twist and it's all words, but for me, like a twist, like a shock, like is more like a dun, 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 and then something you're like, and someone opens the box and you're like, oh my god, but what's in the box?
There's a few points here where you figure.
There's a point where he just goes 1 + 1 equals 2, and then he's like, but it equals 1, and she's like, ah! And I'm just like, I remember being shocked and being like, wait, what? And just being like, oh fuck, I've missed something. I'm out.
Oh,
I just didn't. And it just suddenly occurred to me that I'm not paying attention.
Yeah, okay.
And then he's I wasn't when he was reading the letters, but it might have been. It just suddenly occurred to me what I'd watched, because I actually felt really confused. I was like, because there's a bit where she's like having birth. And it's like, because there's a son we're looking for. She's giving birth to the son. And she's like, you did really good. Wait for the second one. And I'm like, what the fuck? So they're the twins. And I'm like, so they're the twins at the start. But then I'm like, for sure, what the fuck's this son? And
but they're confused with you.
Yes. No. It is a movie where, like, at the end, I just kind of... I hated the movie. And then the twist happened. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. This is really dense. I think my issue is, like, all the parts that are good, like the denseness and the having scenes that you're like, huh? And then later you're like, oh. It just made me, I just wasn't really in the mood to start it. And so I feel like if I was in the mood and you were like, this is going to be a sitting. Because sometimes when you know a movie's going to be a certain thing, or you go, okay, I'm going to accept this. I really was just like, I'm expecting 2 wacky time travel movies. And it just, I know. But I think that's kind of important for like what films are to you, because it's like, I just put on this movie, essentially. And I had a vague idea what I thought it was going to be, but almost immediately I was like, this is probably not that. But then I just feel like it really, I don't know, for instance, I thought Predestination was way, way better. I'm way more inclined to rewatch Incendies in the right mood. Because as you said, it's kind of, I don't know, not to be so like, because I actually enjoyed one of them felt like kind of like a thinking movie, and the other felt like a Hollywood movie. Trying to do the same thing, which I'll just call the dark thing. Kieran's favourite thing in the world is dark, which is a convoluted, messy, intricate, weaving knot of a story. And I think, I could be wrong, I feel like the connecting tissues of these are both interweaving. They're both just like, it's like dark. It's a snake eating its own head kind of. It's a you caused that, which caused that effect, and there's in one of the movies, he's like, which came first, the egg or the chicken? He's like, that's a shit joke. And he's like, rooster? And it's like, what? Yeah. It's like, that's the point. It's like, he's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And he's like, but seriously, bro, what came first? And it's like, oh. And it feels like that's kind of both. But yeah, I don't know. Predestination kind of feels more like someone just having fun with it. And just the Hollywood treatment. Because it starts and he's like, traveling times, and it's this period, I'm trying to stop the bomber, but the origin of it was this time. I'm like, but that was, oh my god, time travel maybe? And then he's like, burns his face off or whatever, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking stop the killer. And he's just in a bar, being like, hey, stranger. And the stranger's like, I have the greatest story ever. And I'm like, come in. And I was so in. I remember thinking, oh my God, Incendies is so boring and slow. I don't have time to sit here and watch 2 hours of you traveling through the desert to find out the most awful past. Or just, I don't care. It's too awful. But part of me is also like, I think I don't know. Sometimes you're just in the mood to watch sexy people chat in a bar. And I was really like, that is kind of the greatest story. It just kept hitting me with twists the whole way. Where I was like, oh, and then at the end I was just like, oh, and then the end happened. I was like, oh. I found out after the movie that's Australian. I'm going to say this. It's the best Australian movie ever made. There's only like 3 or 4 good ones. But apparently this movie Takeaways are really, really good. But
I have to correct something I said last week too. When we were talking about Predestination, I think I said that the directors directed Saw 7. And then you said they directed Jigsaw, and I said no, but they did direct Jigsaw.
I actually saw that today. I was like, what films did they make? Daybreakers, haven't seen, don't really care for. I mean, maybe I like it, who cares? Yeah. Jigsaw.
No good?
I mean, in a way, are any of the Saw films good? I don't know.
The first
one. Sorry. Like most horror franchises, I kind of exclude the first one. For
sure.
It's totally not. But like as a series, I actually think 1 to 7 is a rollicking fun time. It's like...
So Jigsaw is when it loses.
It's so bad because it pretends to be like a remake. It's like Jigsaw. We call it Jigsaw. It's not Saw 8.
Right.
So it's like the pretense of starting something fresh and new.
But with the same guy?
Yeah. And it comes back and it's like twists and reveals and like, oh, and the whole film essentially is going, hey, maybe this is actually going on. And it's like, that is so dumb and so insane. I cannot wait for them to try and explain it. And then at the end they go, oh, actually, no, it's just another flashback or something, whatever. It's just another Jigsaw new guy. Just the way...
All the other ones.
I'd really have to watch it, but then I could fundamentally break down. It was such an utter disappointment in the cinema. And I love Saw 7. It's not a good movie. It's just like insane and stupid. But it's like, I don't know, man. So they suck, I think. In terms of, that movie sucks. So it's like, I don't know. They don't suck. But I was really disappointed. Because this movie, I was like, I don't know. I was so like, it's like such a fun. It's like, I feel like when you pick these 2 movies, you couldn't have picked 2 separate movies in terms of, I don't know, everything except for like, I guess, one connective tissue. But then the biggest differences, I think, are just like, it's like the other one's such like a movie. So weighty and meaty. Whereas this one was just like, bam, 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 bam. And it got me good so quickly. Just with like...
So the revelations the film doles out to you, were you ever ahead of them? Or...
In which movie? So Predestination. So in Predestination, I think it just did such a clever job of quickly... I've always had this issue. No, I've always thought if I rewatch The Prestige as an adult man who thinks, not as a 14-year-old boy who's just like, oh, I will see the twist coming and I'll be so angry at it.
Yeah.
If I hadn't seen it, sorry, I'd just be like, it's just Christian Bale there in a beard. Like,
yeah.
He keeps saying, one day you love me, but the next day you hate me. As if maybe you were like 2 people split in half. I just feel like all the things. I mean, it's hard to say because I just know. But I really feel like that movie wouldn't work to me as an adult. But then, I watched something like this, whereas at the end, it's like, well, obviously that was the twist. Obviously! It got me good. The whole movie, every twist, like, she's like, this and that and this. And the only thing I thought was a bit of a contrivance ended up being, at the end, being like, well, that's not a contrivance, because it's like...
What are you talking about?
Just the fact that he's at the bar, and she's at the bar, like, at that point. So we've got the bartender, Ethan Hawke, and then we've got Sarah Snook, and...
Who is the best, can I just say? Sarah Snook is so good in this movie.
Yeah.
Standout performance. I think the thing I love most is her.
Yeah.
She carries it. Ethan Hawke is just being Ethan Hawke. I
really like him in this, though, to be fair. I think he brings a great bartender. That stuff, I think.
Yeah, really okay. I think watching it again, it's a completely different movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I think the real difference I have with these 2 movies, like I said earlier, that Incendies is about something. It's about, like, saying, all right, this tit for tat of vengeance is what got us here, and let's rise above it and not continue to spiral the way we have, because it'll just continue. You'll go kill this guy, someone will come and kill you. Vengeance is a tit for tat that never ends. It's almost kind of like a biblical message in a weird way that we've seen in a lot of movies before. But the way that the script doles out the information, that the revelations happen, but that it all ties back to this idea that it's been exploring throughout the film, is what I loved watching it the second time. Whereas the first time you're like, oh, it's so dour and depressing and dirty and miserable, and there's no light in this movie. It's just darkness the whole way through, and then the end makes it all even worse. But watching it again, I don't know. I mean, when you know where it's building to, I think the way the information is panned out, there is a lot more room for you to think about the ideas and the themes that he's trying to explore, and the twist has disappeared. When you watch Predestination again and the twist is gone,
it's a twist.
There's nothing there. Yeah. The movie isn't about anything. There are no themes. There is no message. There are the beginnings. This movie could have been about learning to love yourself. This movie could have been about not fighting with your past. This movie could have been about so many things, but it's not about anything.
It is interesting how you're saying that, because I'm sitting here listening, but also 20% of my brain is going, come up with rebuttals.
Yeah.
Come up with the themes, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like just the feeling of the movie, just the idea.
And does a movie need to be about something?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
I don't know, because I feel like if I went over to like 80% of the people's houses I hang out with, I'm going to put on Predestination. I'm never going to put on the other one.
For sure.
And so I feel like maybe just in three friends sitting down having some pizza and beers, it's just like a movie that's like, I don't know. I love a movie that starts and it's just like, like he's like, I chased this bomber and this and that. And he just says something like, the time of 19... He said something about 1975 when the bomb actually hit. And I'm like, this one's the time travel one. Yeah. Predestination is also the most time traveling name I feel like you can have in a movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just something about the idea that we're watching a movie where it was just a bar scene. I think that's the general premise of that just got me in. I love a movie that's just like, a man meets a person at a bar and it's like, tell me a story. And that story is just the whole movie. And then I loved 45 minutes in where it was like, he's like, come downstairs. And I was like, oh my God, we're leaving the bar. There'll be more. Because when she was just telling a story about trying to join the Space Corps, she's like a bit of a brooder and all these things. And I thought it was kind of an interesting look into the idea of someone who's, I don't know, I could kind of see the twist coming that she was going to be revealed to be... Like, also...
The father. Is that what you mean? The dude she meets?
I guess it's like, because
they don't show him. And then she even says, every day my face reminds me more of him.
Yeah, so I guess there's those things, but for me, I guess, like, there's a fight scene later on where Ethan Hawke's fighting the bomber, and I was like, well, it's obviously him or her. Or him and him, or, it's obviously one of them because they're hiding their face. I bet you it'll be Ethan Hawke, because as soon as the movie started, I'm like, he meets the guy at the bar who's like, tells a story about his girl trying to get into the space thing and all that stuff. I love that Noah Taylor's just there. He's just like, I'm here because it's Australian or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, cool, I like that. But
it's the guy who cut off Jamie Lannister.
Yeah. It's so wild. And I don't know, I think all that kind of that just premise of her or him, whatever, unloading on this bartender, and then the bartender's like, what if I could sit you in that room with that man? And just the way it developed, I was like, oh my God. And then the reveal that like, she's gone back in time to seduce herself, but it's kind of this sad thing of like, well, that person gave and there's a little bit when they're having the first scene where I'm like, you're not both like, we're twins. This is weird. We both look the same. We both look like, I don't know. Part of me was like, she like, at first I was like, is that Emma Stone? But they've done something to make her look like a man. Yeah. And then later I'm like, those actresses just look really similar in my eyes. No, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. But it doesn't matter anything. But I don't know. It's like I kind of love the idea that she's like so broken that when it's the man, she's like, I can't abandon her. But then he comes up and he's like, time travel, bitch. Of course, you're abandoned, so of course you're here going to have to abandon. Yeah. And it's like, that I don't know, all those twists and turns were just so classic and just so, And then at the end, I'm like, so the last twist will be that like he's also the Unabomber, and then both of them will have we were the thing we were chasing and avoiding. But then the full reveal, spoilers, the full reveal that like when Ethan Hawke realizes, he's like, I am him, and like that's why my face was. It just, I don't know. I was just like, this is so simple and dumb, and I'm sure if I'd thought about it for 10 seconds longer, but you know what? I chucked it on, and I was like, I hope this week isn't make Jax watch sad, depressing movies that make him go, I guess I shouldn't feel bad about how much tired I am in my job because I'm not a child soldier. But fuck this movie. I don't care. But it started, and it was like, boom, 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 and 5 minutes in, he's like, we're at a bar talking, and like, I literally was like 30 minutes in, I was like, how long is it? Oh my god, it's still not out. I don't know, I just...
It's very brisk. It's very efficient at telling the story it's trying to tell.
It's only what it is, you know? There's no extra scenes. The scene where she meets a person, we don't see that person's face. I kind of just love that. I was like, oh, who is this? What is this? Oh, it's him! It's her! It's him! Oh my god! She fucked himself! Yeah. And he is himself, and... I don't know, I just think that is so stupid and insane. It's like, what if you were this, then you went back in time, became a man, fucked yourself, then someone took your baby and brought them back in time, and all the things that made you the things were the things. Like at one point she's like, her baby was just stolen. I was just like, what the fuck? Who's this fucking son of a bitch stealing the baby? And then when Ethan Hawke's just in a room and it's like a hospital, I hadn't clicked the hospital, but then he comes, he's like, blah 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 blah, and he's like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, dude, what? Oh my god, he's gonna steal the baby! You son of a bitch! And I was just so in the whole time. I was just like, feed me this stupid trashy time. It feels like the person who made Dark saw this and went, I love Hollywood, but also Hollywood sucks. What if I did it but good and real? Not that they're the same, but they're the same twisty, turny knot.
Yeah.
They're almost, none of these films are really similar. It's just that twisty, turny knot of a story that I feel like, and I guess, on rewatch, you've found that once you find all those knots, you pull one, and Predestination kind of fell apart. And the other one kind of opened up and you were like, ooh, look at that.
I just didn't...
I can see that on a rewatch.
Yeah, I just didn't really think about what Incendies was about until I watched it this time and really like thought about a lot of it and just the choices the characters make, the way things pan out, the way the revelation occurs and her decision is to overcome it, not to continue down the spiral.
Yeah.
She could have just gone to her kids and be like, let's go kill this motherfucker. And they would have done it, for sure.
Course,
Imagine if you found that out about... Yeah. You would go murder the guy. But I liked that it was about something bigger. And Predestination is just a fun, rollicking romp that... Really, this time, when it ends, I was frustrated.
Oh, really? Because I was literally like, is this the best movie ever?
I was like, the movie just started! What? You're ending it here? Because he goes and meets himself, and that was actually the one thing that I'd forgotten, the scene in the laundromat.
Yeah, he's like, I'm saving people with my murders.
You know how many people I've saved? There are like 3,300. She's like,
that actual twist was really fun. To reveal that the bomber was bombing people to save other worse incidents.
I like that so much that if the remaining half hour of the film was about his final journey to that point, the movie is saved for me because it then... I wanted to see that. We see every development of the character except the most interesting one. It's not the most interesting one.
No, but it's treated as a... Whoop! Yeah. As I said, when you open the box and you're like, oh, what's in the box? That's in the box. Whereas this other one was more like, it opened the box like 3 times, Incendies, and kind of I don't know, I actually think that is, I feel like a dumb cunt because I didn't pick up, because that bit where he's like, 1 + 1, sometimes it doesn't have to equal 2. And she's like, yeah! And I'm like, I should be...
Her reaction, like...
Terrifying.
Like, I don't know, I was like, fuck. I couldn't deal with it this time. It really, really knocked me. Her reaction is so real. Just
the actual
the way when it clicks for her, like I know what's going on the whole movie, but her performance just right there is so spot on. Like you've said it, that's the thing you've repeated 3 times now. Like it's so real.
Sound, it's a snap. I feel like when you have a moment like that, it was actually kind of amazing because I realized that was the moment. Like the proper, like, you kind of meant to be there. But I felt like it was so I don't know, with the other movie, the twist was like he gets in the thing and she's like, I'm my own baby / mother and father and whatever and all this. It's like it's impossible to be like, what? You know, the movie's like cuts to shots and faces and it does the really
gives it all.
It does the Hollywood thing. I feel like that kind of movie was trying to be like. Whereas I guess like Incendies for me it was more like I don't know. There was like parts of the movie where I was kind of like just like get to it, but like part of my brain was also like if I just turn this off and watch it at a different time, it would probably be one of my favorites. Like there's a scene where they go to meet a warlord chief, and so these dudes just rock up. They're like, "Hey, come with us for now. We'll be safe." And he's like, "Oh,
some tea."
Yeah, and he's like, "No, I guess yes." But then he arrives and they're blindfolded, and they're like, "Hey, this is just for your protection. Because if we show your face, we'll have to kill you or whatever." And they didn't say any of that. It was just we had this weird angle in the house.
Yeah, and you don't see him.
I mean, his head's kind of on the back, and everything's out of focus. And it was like part of him was just like, just fucking show me this guy's face. But I'm like, that's like a movie. It's like I don't know. You know, it's like doing the things, and it's just like I don't know. This is such a great. I love that you've made me watch these two movies together in this way because it makes you kind of like go like, oh well, like yeah, I don't know. One of them I think is a better movie, but I enjoyed the other one
for sure
because of my mindset and where I was just at, and the way it was flashy and bangy, and I guess also just time travel is just so fun.
It is.
It's just so much fun to be like, and it was just so I don't know when it revealed that Ethan Hawke was also the same person. It was just one person we've been following. That was like for me, just like it hadn't occurred to me they'd be the same person. And my biggest issue was like he's like,
and they show you at the start of the film. You know what I mean? Like
looking
his face is all scarred and he's like reconstructed.
The very first bit where he's like, "I look so different." I was just like, this is so fucked up and horrific, but in that kind of fun way, where he's like all scarred and like your scars are healing good. I'm like, they're not healing good at all. It looks horrific. And just that whole thing. I don't know. It's like obvious. I don't know. I feel like if I was in a cynical mood and it hadn't just worked for me at the start, I would have probably been like, it's just convolutedly stupid.
The movie worked really well for me the first time. I mean,
it's just I feel like it's a watch it once kind of like.
Yeah.
I honestly think if they'd set it somewhere else rather than a bar and hadn't had the way the interactions worked, I really thought that just sold me, and I was happy to watch a 90-minute movie of them talking in a bar and her story or his story. Just being the movie. And then halfway through the movie when we got out of the room, I was like, oh my God. And he's like, I've got this box thingy and it does all this stuff. And I'm like, say the word. Don't be coy, say it. And she's like, what is it? He's like, it's a time machine. Yeah. I was like, yeah. I literally audibly just went, yeah, boy. We got it. And it's in like a fucking
guitar case.
It's like a violin case.
Yeah,
yeah. But it's a violin case that's got like the little things. It's just so.
That would be the code, but it's the time travel coordinates.
Yeah, coordinates. It's just so.
Or the date.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something so like.
I love the
silly visual
of
yes.
And everything gets
shatters.
Everything gets sucked in when they leave and
blown
out when they arrive. Because of course it would. You're removing like if you're in a
matter or whatever.
Yeah, quite a large amount of matter from the room. So if I like disappeared now, there would be a small amount of suction that would
so cool. I love that.
Suck things in.
And there was one bit where he was in a car and he left and the car just shattered.
Yeah.
And then he comes back into another room and he kind of catches the thing. I'm like, because he's used to it. You know, he's a bit shaky, but he's still like, oh, just grab that object out. I don't know. Yeah,
that really works. Yeah,
that really works. That's actually probably one of the coolest.
Such a simple effect that it just a couple of little practical things done the right way adds so much.
Yeah, I think those little things for me, like, I love them. Whereas in like all those cheeky things Incendies does are more like just painful.
Yeah.
You know, like
for sure.
It's just not fun. One of them is fun and one of them is so unfun. You know what Incendies remind me of? Old Boy.
Right.
Have you seen Old Boy?
I have not seen Old Boy.
Damn it. Part of me feels like just mentioning that has in ways ruined Old Boy.
I already know there's fucked up shit.
Old Boy is super fucked up.
And
it's a super fucked up movie. But for me, it has fucked up elements in the latter half of the movie that make you go like, oh. But the whole movie is just the most captivating thing. It's one of the best movies ever. It's so good. As soon as it starts, you'll be like, what? And then 10 minutes in, you'll be like, what?
It's the director of Handmaiden.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's really fucked up. It's exactly, of course, it's by the same guy. Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so funny.
Pump Chan Walk.
He's disgusting. In the best way. Like, I'm sure he's not a disgusting guy.
He loves squids.
He just loves fucked up shit, man. And it's... Yeah, no.
You showed me the scene from
he's eating,
Old Boy.
He just eats the shit out of a real squid. And that guy's vegetarian and everything.
Yeah.
Mad, man. But I won't mention why. But it's like, I guess for me, Incendies, I don't know, it didn't... Whereas, like, for instance, Old Boy, it's the... Like, I don't want to be in that world. But as soon as I start, I'm like, oh... I don't know, something about it gets me. Whereas Incendies just felt very, like...
So this was actually a discussion I wanted to have because I saw reviews of Incendies and people kept using the word melodrama. Okay. Now I looked up the definition.
I was about to say what I feel like.
Let me actually look it up because I think it's important because I've always had an idea of what melodrama was, and I think the actual definition of it made me go, I don't think that's a bad word. So melodrama. A sensational, dramatic piece with exaggerated characters and exciting events intended to appeal to the emotions. You mean a movie?
Yeah.
Like
that's such a weird.
When I read the definition, I thought maybe I like melodrama because
melodrama makes me sound like I'm watching a soap opera. At 3 p.m.
It does. And maybe that's what the word has evolved into. But by the strict definition of it. I think, yes, Incendies is pure melodrama at its best. Like, this is what melodrama should be, in that there are ideas and themes to explore out of the melodrama. That it isn't just there to be there, or there to be enjoyed, or whatever it is. But I thought it was interesting that people were using the word melodrama as a criticism, and then when I looked up the definition of it, I thought, no, this is actually what works. I like the melodrama. And I would say that all of Denis Villeneuve's films are very melodramatic.
This felt... watching this was like, this is exactly the same as how I felt about Prisoners. Where I was this is really well made. It's fucking awful, though. It's a horrendous world, not just people, but his films seem to be filled with people that are just so sad.
He's not scared of fucking with kids.
No!
He's
Stop murdering children. It's like, fuck!
Is it why you're reveling in it that matters? You can revel, but the reason you're doing it is what is important. Like, Saw is reveling in the violence to have fun, to basically just create a showreel of special effects
and
imagery.
It's this insane
that appeals,
world of bringing, and then
that appeals to the horror junkie, really.
And you're seeing these crazy things, but it's like, I don't know.
They're inventive and creative, and
because I watched the first Saw movie when I was really young. I rented it. Someone must have told me it was great, and I watched it. And 2 or 3 Saw films around that point. And I watched it, and I was like, this is fucking fucked up shit. There's like a twist and all the things blew my way. But I remember being like, the second movie really dug in, and I was like, I didn't want to do anything wrong, because everyone that did something wrong in that movie got punished for what they did wrong. The junkie got hit with needles or whatever, all that stuff. That was because I was 14, and I went to see King Kong, and later was like, is King Kong real? Because and I thought, and it was like, so is that island real? And just because I read a book and it would pretend it's real, and I'd be like, so it's real. Why would they lie to me? Because I didn't realize all that life is just people lying to you. But I think that as an adult, it's like you don't watch Saw. You don't watch Saw. Yeah, exactly. You don't watch Saw and go, fuck, I'm so scared. I hope Jigsaw doesn't come and get me for evading my taxes or whatever. I don't evade taxes. I don't know enough about tax to be able to do that.
Well, in the end, he's just killing people because they're smokers, yeah?
Oh, yeah. It's
like, that's real.
Yeah. And then actually there's a twist where it's like then his disciples end up just killing, and there's not a way to get out. He's like, that's not what I do. I put them in situations that maybe they can get out of. It's like, what are you talking about, you son of a bitch? That's not accurate.
Twisted logic.
It's so stupid. But I don't know. It's like as an adult, you're watching that and you're not like, this real guy. You know, it's that type of thing. This is like a real movie that a real woman who had a child, who was taken away from her, grew up as a child soldier, then raped her, and gave her other children. And so it's her son / the kid's son and father, the brother and father. And it's like, it's so horrendous. I feel like maybe I haven't even properly processed it yet. It has one of those scenes at the start as well where she's like saying something in a school Is it at the school or something? Right at the start where she says something like 1 + 1 mostly equals 2, but sometimes it equals 1.
Yeah, there's a convoluted equation and it's, you don't even know that.
I just remember thinking like, that's like the bit in the... I just always remember the scene in this terrible movie, Teeth. And it's a movie about the woman with the evil teeth vagina. And there's a scene at the start of the movie where they're in the school, the teacher's like, something, Venus flytraps or something. And it's just something so like... so stupid where that's like the reproductive organs of this fish that does it. It was just something, you know how in a movie...
Too many things.
You know in the movie the person's like gonna have like superhuman powers or they're gonna be like, have fish powers or... And then they go to school and 10 minutes in the teacher's like...
Human physiology.
Amphibians! Something. This is actually the plot. It happened in Smallville, I feel like, all the time.
Yeah.
I can't even think of a proper example. But in the movie Teeth, they have the stupidest, dumbest thing. And you're like, well, that's gonna be the thing that she's dealing with. And I see the movies. I've seen all the movies. See one, you've seen them all. And I remember seeing that scene in Incendies and being like, that's going to come back around.
But the way the scene I'm thinking of, just before you is Breaking Bad. When he's like, what is chemistry? It is change. And that's what the whole show's about. So good. You know, he sprays the chemicals on the fire and he's giving them, but it's really about him becoming this horrible, when I say that setup thing with the teacher's always like, this is the thing that the movie's going to be. I love that. I love it so much. When I saw it in Teeth, I can't remember exactly, but I just have this memory of being like, that's so stupid and dumb. Yeah. I'm going to love this movie. I hate the movie. It's terrible. It's not as gory as it should be. It just feels like a movie where it doesn't live up to its premise.
Yeah, well, it's just like every man in the movie, I feel like, I could be wrong, I can't really remember. I just remember every man in the movie is just like, hey, what's going on, character? Oh, I'm going to rape you now. And then she's like, I'll bite your dick off!
Right.
And it's
so
like,
we have to get to... Yeah.
We have to get to the man, I don't know, deserving of the dick being bitten off. But then you never see the dick being bitten off. But then, I don't know,
No, you do.
Yeah, I was just selling
me a movie.
It's an M movie that needs the R.
Yeah, I figured it would have... There has to be a scene where they show that.
I could be wrong, but I feel like you don't get it. And I feel like being like,
super
what's the point of this?
Yeah.
It's like a classic, just horror movie. You know,
it's like Saw, where they cut away from the trap before it goes off. Imagine that. Like, you want to see it. We got it. Like, come on.
I paid my $17.50.
This one person can get out, but I need 2 traps to go off. Or I didn't get my money's worth. Yeah?
When do you feel like you're meant to hunt? Is it her going, oh, is that the twist moment? Is that the revelation, sorry? Do you think do you think you're meant to know then? Is there points before or after you feel like you could know?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, they show you the tattoo so much in the movie, and when you rewatch it, you realise, I think I put it together when he was talking to the warlord.
Yeah,
because he brings the torturer's name back up, and then it cuts away. And then I went, oh no, it's the same person. Right. And then the next scene happens and then they tell you because he finds out and then he goes and it's not. But
I think maybe it's just too gross for me to it just doesn't come into my brain. Do you know what I mean? I think maybe they told me twice and then when you just have to know, I just went, oh, I actually think it was when he was reading at the end because the movie pretty much ended and I was still like, whoa.
I think the movie does a good job of... Because even when she reacts like that, there's not actually a point where it's said out loud.
No, he says 1 + 1 = 1. I'm like, what? No, it doesn't, you dumb cunt. Yeah. No, you know what I actually thought when he said that? He's like, 1 + 1 = 1. I was like, you mean 1 + 1 = window? That was literally the thought that went in my brain. And I remember just being like, 1 + 1 =... That was what went in my brain, honestly. Because I was like trying to find some light in this horribly dark... desolate movie, and it is a nightmare of a movie. And I mean, I'm saying all this stuff, but it's like it is a phenomenal movie. And when I see that, I go, well, you can see a man who knows how to make a movie, and then he'll end up making something that's dour and depressing, but a film I'll watch again and not hate myself. Blade Runner 2049. I don't know if I can watch Prisoners or Enemy again. They're so probably Enemy.
Rival. Man, he really loves killing kids.
I imagine that June won't be as fun as I sitting there. It'll just start and it'll be like a desert. I'll be like, oh, pretty good. And then there'll just be a bunch of children walking. I'm like, oh no, heads exploding. Oh, that's way better. Yeah, I'm still on that. You know what's so fucked though? It's like he does these scenes where it's like that sniper scene is probably the most visually standout scene I remember. Like the children running through Because I have this thing where it's like I'll see slums and smashed buildings and stuff, and I'll be like, it looks sick. But I've actually been, I mean, not to the place itself, I've been to the Middle East, but I've been to places that, this whole movie, Incendies, like every visual part of the film, because like half an hour in, I'm like, where the fuck's this set? I also felt like maybe the film, when it came back to her and she's like, I don't like the political war that's going on, or whatever, the religious war, whatever, I was like, is this meant to be for like, you know, should I know what's happening?
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you're watching a film and you're not aware that A and B is C, or just A, or whatever, you know, whatever, you're just like...
Like, do the politics...
Matter?
Should I know the background?
Yeah, like, is that going to be the main...
prerequisite?
Is this character just a surrogate for the themes of the religious war?
For sure.
And if I'm not aware of what country I'm in, does that matter? And then you said before we started, it's unnamed.
Yeah, there are regions which are based on real locations, but names have been changed, and then there are completely like fictional places. This movie is also partially based on like a real woman, but I don't know where the fiction begins and ends, and I don't really want to know.
Yeah,
you know, I saw it, and I saw the picture of the woman in the prison, like the real one, and I just went, I don't even want to know if this happened to her. Because if it's real, it's
real.
I don't want it. Yeah, it's a movie in my head, and I want to leave it a movie. Yeah, I don't ever want it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it never happened to her. But I know horrible shit happened.
You know
to
what's
her.
so like? Yeah. I think maybe that's something another film was like. Yeah.
I like living in
the idea
ignorance.
that this movie could have happened is so horrifically real. Whereas obviously Predestination doesn't have that, where there's this time euro that's like, we need to make a man out of time. And they're like, how do we do that? Well, we'll get this guy who's actually a transvestite, he'll fuck himself. That baby will be set back in time. It's like, what? That's so stupid. That's so stupid. But every day I get older, I just want things to be dumb and stupid. Because all the real things in my life make me so sad and angry.
I think the Predestination, I feel like would be a movie I would love to see remade in 20 years or so, or maybe even remade as like a, you know, like an 8-part series,
mini-series, yeah,
something like that. But I just feel like there's so much more in it, and it's based on a short story too. And I would love to go and read that.
I actually saw that. It's called like Who's the Zombies, or We Be Zombies, or something like that. Something weird, bro.
All the zombies, because they say it in the movie.
Yeah, that's why
it's
I
like,
remember.
I know where I came from, but what about all you zombies, or something like that? Like. Where's everyone else come from if they're not their own mother and father?
It just reminded me of something. And I don't know. It's fascinating that you found so little to chew on the second time, because it's like that story. Presumably you really like. You can let me know if you change your opinion. But the egg.
Yeah, the egg. No, I do.
I just remembered that, and that's essentially a bigger version of Predestination. Because Predestination for me works because it's like, I'm sure it could fall apart. It's like, but human. But it's just so like, at the end, we think all these things are things, but it's just one dude.
Yeah.
In this insane spiral. And that's essentially the egg. It's just like one guy's like, meets God and God's like, what's up?
But the
You're
egg,
everyone or whatever.
The egg, the theme of the egg.
Be nice to everyone because you are them.
Yeah, like, there's something there. It's like, it's more concise, and I
Is
feel
that
like...
just an action sci-fi? It is just it's the most, like when someone says Hollywood blockbuster, they don't mean Mad Max, where you can actually find the most intricately great character stuff.
Yeah, just like
it's not just an action film, it's such a good movie. Like Lord of the Rings, it's such a good action movie. And adventure, but it's also got so much to chew on.
Yep.
This is an action blockbuster sci-fi thriller. Not thriller, just fun.
No, I think thriller.
Yeah, it's like you chuck it on, things are happening, there's sexy people talking, everyone's doing a thing, there's parts where you go, whoa! And then you end and you're like, that was sick! Yeah. And then in 3 days you'll be like, what happened again? Did he fuck himself? That's weird. That's really weird.
The cinematography in all his films is... He works with so many different cinematographers. Really? Like, now Blade Runner 2049, Sicario with Roger Deakins, the greatest cinematographer ever. And then other people for the other films, but there is a through line. Like, they all feel like they've been shot by the same it really shows. It's like a Tarantino. Tarantino has different cinematographers, but he's really the cinematographer.
Yeah, and you can feel that when you look at them. Yeah.
And I've done cinematography work. I've done cinematography work for you. And I've done some cinematography work for other people. And when I did it for you, you really knew what you wanted. And I was a camera operator. And I worked with other people where they're like, I know what the scene is, but you figure it out. Whereas you were like,
yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go and set that up so I can get exactly that shot for you. Whereas, you know, working with other people, they're like, 2 people come and talk and then 1 leaves.
It's interesting how people work. And Denny V might be more like Tarantino to me, where it's like, when I write and see a thing, it's there.
Yeah.
Everything is there except for dialogue, which is often why I just don't write any dialogue.
And then you find the cinematographer that brings it to life.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference.
Because I hate technical shit and I hate touching.
Some directors, I think, want the cinematographer to add all that into their film, and then directors already have it all figured out and just want them to bring it to life. And I think there's like Kevin Smith, you know.
Oh yeah, he probably doesn't know how to use
He doesn't know what a lens, like,
he'd not like me, where he's like, oh, put it here, and they'll be like, oh, but the lighting. He's like, oh, okay, and they're like, we'll need to put it there. Then he's like, ooh. I feel like you said that a few times. You'd be like, oh, we'll move this. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm not the camera guy. Yeah, I don't know. The whole movie is just, it's stunning to look at. Like, it really is. Like, even just the way, like, I just remember at one point they're running to do a thing, and the camera was just kind of moving with them, and the way it was moving was just so tight on them.
And we're just walking across a bridge, coming to the south, and it's just following her along, and I don't know, all the blocking is perfect, and there's never. I think the big thing with him is that a lot of directors make little mistakes that always bug me in movies. Like if someone's smoking a cigarette, the continuity's always off. So don't put a cigarette in your movie
if you can't be bothered.
If you're not going to pay fucking attention to it, get the cigarette out of the scene. If you're just going to put this together in editing, don't have the guy smoking. Yeah. Denis Villeneuve is not that guy. No. If someone's smoking,
it's perfect.
Yeah, the inhale, exhale, all of it is exactly where it needs to be, because you know he's like, you're going to say this line and then you're going to take a puff and then you're going to, you know, whereas another director will be like, just smoke through the whole scene and we'll figure it out later and we'll get a close, a mid, and a wide, and I'll put it together with my editor. Which is why I think maybe Predestination worked a little bit less. You are right, because it did feel, it's funny. It felt Hollywood, yet it's a little Australian film. By
like the idea that it's Australian to me.
Did you notice a lot of the locations? You know, my screensaver on my computer and my phone
is the scene from the movie.
Is the Space Corp building. The RMIT building. You know all the dots? That's the Space Corp the Space Corp building from Predestination. I love that building.
Yeah.
I photographed the building. I'll put the photo I've taken up on screen now. Yeah. I love that building so much. And when I saw it in Predestination, I'd seen Predestination before, but I never because I took the photos of the building after I took it a few years ago, and I watched Predestination when it came out. And there was also the Abbotsford Convent, which is in. You know where that?
Yeah, one of my mates lives essentially 2 minutes from there.
All the orphanage stuff is shot there. I've been there many times. I've gone and taken photos there. I've gone and done portrait shoots there. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful location. And when you know it, I was watching. I was like, "Oh my god, it's all Melbourne! This is so Melbourne. This whole thing. It just.
I don't know if I would have liked it if I'd noticed, to be honest, man.
But they shoot it pretty well.
Yeah,
they do a good job.
I don't want to insult every Australian director that's ever made a movie, because I've actually worked on one film before, and it's really, really good. Cats of Blues. You should watch it. Unless you don't. Oh no, it's the most awful, intense, horrible.
I think people will know your sensibilities by now. They'll know whether they want to go watch that.
Yeah. If you're able to stomach, I can't. I don't know. I feel like every time I see like an Australian TV show, before I know what I'm watching, I know I hate it and everything about it, and then I'm like, oh, it's an Australian cop show. That's why it looks and feels and sounds terrible. I don't know what it is.
It's an overuse of slow motion. It's an inability to like
shoot properly. It doesn't look like the cameras they're using are expensive enough, or they just don't know how to use them, or they just everything about it. And it's not me being like, look at that street. That's Brunswick. I've seen Brunswick. It's not that. Sometimes you see that and you're like, oh, that's right. This is Australian. Like chocolate strawberry vanilla. We vaguely did it with the Joker years ago.
Footscray, yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like places I've been. Like he's sitting there outside with his ice cream and stuff, but I'm not. I don't know. Australian films just feel cheap and shit always. It blew me away to find out this was Australian because it looks like a real movie. I don't know. Like they cut away to flashbacks and it didn't feel like I don't know, everything about it. Maybe they color corrected it the way Americans do.
Yep.
It could be something basic like that tricks my dumb brain. But I was so shocked to find out this was Australian because I feel like I would have noticed and been like, fuck this stupid Australian movie. Look at them trying to make... look at this terrible visual effect they put in for the time travel or... these things I would have thought been there. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I've unfair... Maybe I just don't watch the right Australian films.
Well,
but I can't think of...
Fury Road is an Australian film. It's a completely...
Is that though?
Yeah, it's a completely Australian production. Okay, but they shot it in Africa.
Yeah, well, it doesn't...
Because...
But that doesn't matter. Like, an American movie can shoot in somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah. But they shot it... They were going to shoot in Broken Hill, but it was too green.
Yeah, didn't it like...
All the rainfall
didn't it flood for the first time in like 40 years or something insane? Well, that might have been when they actually shot it.
I'm glad they didn't shoot it there, because I don't think the first three Mad Max films look anywhere near as good as... Namibia looks like
is that where they shot?
Desolate wasteland.
Incredible location.
And obviously they added visual... There's a lot more visual effects than there are in the earlier movies. There's no visual effects in those earlier movies.
They wouldn't be. But they look... It's so funny how the apocalypse in those movies turns from like... You can just see it like looks like a show on film and just some guys in cars, and the next one's like this... Just, it looks so good though. Yeah. We were watching it recently with that orange and teal. You pointing that out, it's just such a...
It's a lot more orange and teal than... yeah. And now I think 2015
it's like was... the most orange and teal year of all time.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's when people had dialed the saturation up to, 120%.
It's hard not to, as someone who's played around with saturation and stuff, where you're just like, oh, that green looks pretty good. Then you just crank it to 100 and you're like... You just feel like the colour's like seeping into my eyeballs. I love it.
The trick to colour grading is you do the thing and then you go back 10%. Because your first inclination is always
too much.
Wrong. Always.
If we had just done Incendies, like just say we were doing Denis Villeneuve for a month and we just did Incendies, I don't know if I'd have as much to like process and think, but like...
Because it's both movies and we're bouncing back.
And we're bouncing the ideas of both, and they're both so different except for like...
This one thing.
Yeah, this one kind of thing, which I feel like if you didn't place them together, you might not... Like, just say you watch one and you watch the other 4 years later when they came out. You might not necessarily be like, hey, they're both like this.
Yeah.
They both have this similar thing. And I guess it was just making me think it's like, I don't know, it makes me appreciate and kind of get annoyed by all the things that are really good and really bad about them both.
It also, just springboarding off what you're saying there, Predestination actually feels quite antiquated to me now. It's out of date already.
Okay.
It came out, and it's probably because I'm so in love with dark. But I feel like maybe, movies have moved past it, but obviously not, because you've seen all of this stuff and it worked for you. So maybe it's just because I watched it so long ago, processed it. I've watched all this other stuff and now I'm going back to it and recontextualizing it as, came out in 2014. All of this other stuff has come out since. Like so many time travel-y... I don't know, there's just been so much of it.
I guess it's like, I don't know, because I think about some other time travel movies that kind of make me feel like it's the same, like, I'm you and you're me, it's all just one dude. It's like, I don't know, the other thing I think of immediately is like Looper, 2012 as well, so I'm like 8 years younger, so I'm somehow 8 years dumber, which is a terrifying concept. And I remember watching it and being like, I like Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis didn't suck yet. Well, I hadn't noticed he sucked yet. I don't know. But it started, and he's like, this, that, and then he's just like an empty field. And he's like, I'm there. BAM! And I was like, oh my fuck, what the fuck? I was just hit with so much power in the cinema by that gunshot hitting him. And I just, and the whole movie happened. I was like, so like, oh, time travel. He's him, he's chasing. And he's that bit where he's like, I'm walking, and he's like, and he's losing. And it's all this stuff. And someone's like, that doesn't make any sense.
That's where it lost me.
And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. I don't care if that doesn't make sense. It is so cool. It is such a cool just thought. And the whole film...
That's funny that we had such a...
visceral...
I was so sure I would love this movie. That
Looper, sorry?
Yeah. That I booked tickets to go see it.
I got a Looper tattoo.
And then my dad messaged me and asked if I wanted to see it. And I was like, I'm so sure I'm going to love this movie. I'm going to book tickets the following day to see it again with my dad. And I went and saw it the first time. And I still remember now, like sitting in the cinema when the credits rolled, and I just sat there like silent. I was like, do I hate this? I shouldn't, because it looks so much better than the budget, and I like all the people involved, and I was so ready for this to be great, and then it wasn't, and then I saw it again the following day, and I think all the problems I had with it compounded.
Yeah,
and
that's
and then it wasn't people didn't even really discuss the things wrong with the movie when it came out. I remember it coming after, and I'm not trying to say, oh, it's so ahead of what everyone else was thinking, because I'm sure there were people who were thinking the same shit in the cinema.
Yeah.
But I just remember there was overwhelming, like the critical reception was
super positive, right?
Yeah.
I was really
made a lot of money
until like a couple of years after when I watched it again, because what I find is like if there's an issue in a movie, so my biggest issue is that the whole movie is like we time travel, we use a time travel device thing because we can't kill anyone, but the whole movie is because they killed someone.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It's just so fundamentally dumb. But I didn't notice that the first time because all the elements were working. There was a bit where he's like, "I'm flashing in time. We've got this drug. We're putting our eyes like, oh," and I'm like, "This is so cool."
And there's like psychic people.
Yeah, and the psychic people, and that's just kind of vague, and that's kind of interesting. And then Bruce Willis is suddenly, it's like he's got a nose. He's Bruce Willis all of a sudden. He's got no hair and just the stupid montage of, I don't know, it's a horrifically weird decision.
So in between when he has long hair.
Yeah, he's just got long hair and but like, I just was having fun with it all.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where they're sitting in a bar and he's like, this time travel stuff doesn't make any sense. Like, just shut up! Just shut up and just watch the movie. I'm like, Bruce Willis, just watch the movie, that's fine. I'm fine.
I feel like he put that scene in because someone like revised his script and was like, and now that I'm saying this, I'm remembering that Rian Johnson talked about the fact that he went to Shane Carruth.
Who's that?
Who directed maybe the greatest time travel film ever made, Primer.
I haven't seen it.
What? Why are we watching this?
That's it! That's the movie. The movies that I thought I was going to watch was Primers and Predestination. Because you said, I'm going to do this, or we're going to do this.
I would pair Primer with something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if that's got time travel in it...
I never... No, I was always...
Oh, it's always this? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying... I don't know.
I'm sure we did.
You must have said the word primer and time travel at some point, because I definitely thought I was watching a double feature, and I wasn't meant to know they both had time travel, but they were.
No.
Yeah.
the
Is someone in Primer I should know? I feel like there's a face to that.
No, all I know.
So Joe Butler's not in it.
I think the movie cost $7,000 to make. Yeah, which will make you go, I don't want to watch it because that's too little money.
No. But it'll blow me away.
It's real impressive.
It'll be one of those films where I'll be like, maybe like one.
The guy thought so much about the time travel that Rian Johnson, when making his movie, went to that guy.
And he said this
and gave him the script and was like, let's help me work the time travel out. Shane Carruth wrote a bunch of stuff, and then Rian Johnson said, don't worry about it, and then just continued on with his script. And I feel like that is why that
conversation had.
Yeah, it was like he went to the guy you go to,
and he was like,
he's like, you got to fix this, and this, and then Rian Johnson just went, no,
I don't want to do
it's
that.
not what my. And you know what? It's not really what the movie's about.
He was like, but instead of making it make sense, I'll subvert people's expectations.
No,
that's sorry. As soon as I said that joke, I was like, I'm not.
No, you're right.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have made that joke.
Right? As well. Yeah.
With time travel, it doesn't make any fucking sense. It doesn't make any sense. It just, I don't know. It's like the idea of it, like to actually, like, I'm sure they've got all their black hole, like Interstellar. It's like, we're trying to be as accurate as we can. It's like, sure. I mean, that's awesome they are, but it's also like, but we have no fucking idea. Not really.
No.
And so I think that like, it doesn't have to be logical. And my issue with Looper isn't that it doesn't make any sense, that they're not dropping into volcanoes and doing what you would do. Because then no movie.
Well, maybe time travel is less science fiction and more fantasy. Really.
It just needs to follow its own fucking rules. And that's the thing with all movies, all things, it's as soon as they don't follow the rules, it just kind of goes like, but you said that, and so we're here. Whereas I feel like a great example of this, fucking spoilers, watch fucking Lost. spoilers, because it has nothing to do with this, but spoilers it does, it's super time travel-y. But it just goes, this is time travel, and then it just does that. And then characters go, no, it's not that. And then someone will be like, but could this maybe be this? Like, there's that bit where Miles is like, aren't we maybe causing the thing? And they're like, shut up, I just...
And then that's all they do.
And that's all they do, they just keep doing it. And it's like, I don't know, it just needs to set its own rules, you know? Like, and I think the issue with Looper is that it's the whole thing is like, we do time travel because of this, but then they just do that. And it's just so like, what? Ugh. I feel like maybe, I don't know, Predestination feels like time travel is there to just have fun. And I don't know if it like makes sense, and I feel like you'd be like, I don't know, like I was kind of like, the scene where he's talking to herself or whatever, I was like, you both not kind of like, we look identical? We both look identical?
She does say that though, doesn't she? Doesn't she?
Yeah, but not like...
And would you...
Yeah, you seem... No,
you have to think about the logic.
You would never imagine, hey, that's me in the future as a man. If you're a woman, you would not... Of course, that's not going to occur to you.
Yeah. You met a beautiful woman who looked
similar,
suspiciously like you.
And then I would be like, this is perfect. I can have sex with myself, but it's the opposite sex. I don't know. Maybe that's how it came to that movie. He's just like... This guy is looking at himself and like, he did that thing on his phone where he made himself a girl on the app. And he's like, I'd fuck that. And then he's like, if I fucked that, would I be that baby? Because aren't you just like 50-50 with your parents? But if you're just 100%, would that just be you again? And then he just went, movie. And then he went, what if also Ethan Hawke was at a bar? And then he made that. And I'm like, yes.
Both these movies, Incendies and Predestination, are essentially doing a huge amount of groundwork just to get to the premise.
Ooh.
That's what the whole movie is. Groundwork. To get
to that final 15 kind of
like
minutes of revelation.
When you watch Incendies again, you realise like every beat of the movie is just to put the pieces in place to get the son here to become this, to weave back around for all these characters to, you know, in the prison and then the birth and then ultimate revelation at the end. Like, it's just groundwork to get... It's like, we know what the movie is at the end and let's do all this stuff to get there. And then what are the themes? And that's really why I think Denis Villeneuve is maybe the director of the 2010s.
I feel like we've had this discussion.
Yeah, maybe he is the best...
Did this come out in 2010, the beginning? So this is his first one in that decade.
2010, and then Enemy, Prisoners, Arrival, Blade Runner,
2049, and
Sicario is in the middle there.
Yeah, I haven't seen Sicario, but I've seen the others. Sicario is one of those films that keeps coming up on Netflix. You know how Netflix plays like just a clip randomly? It just plays this bit where she's just walking. And it's like a bunch of people like either down like this or just like it feels like you were on a bus. They were on a bus somewhere or something, and they're being pulled over because of war or whatever. Yeah. And she's just walking up. I just remember being like, I can just see, I can feel the movie is good from the shots. When am I going to want to watch that?
I don't think.
When am I ever going to want to watch that kind of movie?
Never. I think Incendies is the movie that you want if you want either of those.
Yeah.
Just because the payoff's better.
Yeah, Sicario can't have.
Sicario's prettier.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
got
newer,
the guy from
and it has bigger. It's got Josh Brolin and it's got Emily Blunt.
But who's that guy from that really good movie, Get Out? It's the guy from Get Out. He's on a poster I've seen. The main guy in Get Out?
Is he in it?
Is he not in it?
Holy shit! I don't, maybe.
He could be a... You know how Netflix sometimes...
I just didn't know who he was until Get Out.
Yeah,
I saw Sicario before Get Out, so it's possible. Oh no, I saw him in Black Mirror.
He's really great. I hate that episode, but he's so good in it.
Yeah.
That's...
I think I hated it the first time, and then when I rewatched it all, I was like, this is nowhere near as bad as I thought it was. It's just jarring.
It's when you go from President Fucks the Pig to... I'm riding a bicycle in society. It's like, I get it. We all watch screens and go to... shut up!
Yeah.
I'm so tired because I have to go to my work and watch a screen all day.
And then the third episode just knocks it out.
Which one's that again?
So good. Replaying memories.
Yeah, the I one. I always go like, the show's really good. Remember the I one?
It's because I don't really... The bad egg.
Yeah. I always see him as the guy who's in King Kong Skull Island.
Ah, okay.
And he plays the guy who's just in the movie. He's like, they're always like, we're going to go find that guy. Samuel Jackson's like, we're going to get that guy. And they're like, that guy's dead. Here's his thing. And he dies kind of like by himself. And it's just like, why is that guy there?
I feel that way about literally every character in that movie.
Yeah.
I think
he's got an excuse though, because he plays Kong. So they just had him on set anyway.
Oh,
so they're
yeah,
like,
right.
instead of hiring 2 actors for Kong and that character, just make him both.
He's the successor to Andy Serkis, isn't he?
Yeah.
Trained by him.
Yeah, trained by him.
Apes, and now he's playing King Kong. It's like full circle.
Oh, that is so weird.
Because he did King Kong.
Yeah, King Kong, and they both did the Planet of the Apes movie. And
he trained him.
I love
this is how you become an ape.
I feel like that circle is the same as these movies, where it's like they're 80 years old. It's like, I want to watch the documentary. Predestination, the monkey story, or whatever. That's awesome. Fucking Andy Serkis is so good. What are we talking about? I don't know. I feel like I've probably said all the things.
Yeah.
They're fucking...
I really did just kind of want to torture you a little bit, just because I knew that...
I actually...
Not with Incendies though, it was more the like, I knew the twists, basically. Like, I just wanted to give you 2 twists.
Yeah, they were incredible.
That's,
like, I mean, honestly, my final thought is, Incendies, I was like, I hate this. I actually hate having to watch this. I hate that the best scenes in the movie are when children are shot, because it's just so devastatingly powerful and awful. Especially that bus scene, because he kills everyone. And you're like, oh, well, the point of this is for her to get this child. This is a child. It's like, no, I'm just killing more children.
But he does...
There's more pain. But no, beautifully... And
he kills the kid in a wide.
Oh, it's a horrific wide.
It feels like, you know... I guess a lesser director would have been a bit...
Catch it right in there.
Yeah.
No, it's just...
It's still horrific.
Oh, it's just powerful, incredible filmmaking. And then it comes to the most... Like, just the twist of, like, mother has kid fucks her later and doesn't know. I think the realization, I think, was probably just right at the end, like 20 minutes later. But he's just, like, reading the notes and he's like... Ugh. Like, can you imagine reading the note being like, I hate you. You're raping son of a bitch, and you're like, ooh.
And then opening another one and be like, I love you. Nothing you could ever do would make me not love you.
And you're like, I
would have liked a little more
of him reveling in
that. Yeah. I think maybe that would be one criticism I would have, is that his presence in the movie. I don't know, like when in the scene where he's like right before he rapes her, it actually reminds me of a scene in Sicario, which plays out very, very similarly in that the thing that happens, they don't show you.
It's just afterwards.
Yeah, and it's more powerful that they don't show you.
Yeah, because when that's happening...
Like, he's just looking, and then he walks around the room, and then he's like... And then cut, and she's just on the floor and he's leaving.
Yeah.
There's another scene like that with Josh Brolin in Sicario.
Oh, okay,
I just kind of want to show you that scene, because it's so good.
That's interesting, because that actual scene, I remember, it's like really fuck, where she's in the thing, and he's all like, And then when he leaves, he's like, yeah, fucking try singing now. I was like, oh, fuck, like, already happened. Like, those kind of scenes, you kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen. Because they'd already told us that he's like, he does that, he rapes them to try to break them down.
People
But then, like, not actually seeing that stuff. I think, though, I'm just trying to think of vague things. I think the most horrific part for me in the movie was when we cut to her in prison, and we've heard the story of how she sung, and she's like, we called her the woman that sings, and I was like, oh, that's awful. And then we cut to it, and I'm like, oh, you just said that, I don't need to see it.
We already know it happened for, 13 years or 15 years?
And you're unsure of how long you're going to have to endure this part of the movie. So that's also something, when you don't know how long you're going to be in these things, not knowing there's a payoff that's going to actually kind of feel like, worth it, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know if worth it's the right phrase.
No.
But it was horrifically kind of, wow. Like, I actually laughed out loud. It was so horrific. When it dawned on me, I was like, what? Why would you do this? Why'd you put this in a movie? What's wrong with you? But it's awesome. But, like, the bit that really, really, for me, is probably the most awful. She's in the prison, and we're just on her. Could be wrong, but it feels like we just hold on her in a one shot for like a couple of minutes. And there's just the most awful wailing. Like, I'm not going to do it loud. It's like this
screaming the other side.
Utter painful scream.
Back and forth.
Oh,
she is exercise or something.
Yeah, I think that might be a different scene where it's that, and then we cut away, and then we cut back. Because I definitely just remember her kind of being there, and then she's like shuts off the music, or tries the screaming, sorry, and then she just starts humming, and then she starts singing, and that it was just hearing that thing, and it's like, I don't know. I don't as someone who makes films, it's like, we've made some stuff. So it's just like, I know what it's like to like try and get someone to get like a scream out of them. And just all I thought was like, how did you get that woman to scream like that? And just the awful pleasure as a director of like hearing that and being like,
that's the one.
Perfect. And then being like, I am evil. Like, what about, I don't know, it's, because, I mean, you need to be hitting 10 in those moments, otherwise it's not going to land.
Yep.
And so I really appreciated the movie for like getting those, like, well, Danny V, I guess, getting that performance of a character off screen, just the whale was just so awful. And then her face and just everything, and then the singing, and just every actor in the movie was great. I really, really liked the guard she met for like 20 minutes. He's like, have you ever overseen someone for 13 years? She's like, how would you remember? And he's just like, yeah, I don't know that. Yeah. I thought he was great. And the daughter's face as she's really, then she just cuts to her on the phone and she's like, brother, fucking answer the phone. And I'm just like, yeah, some really good acting.
And then when they meet back with the lawyer and there's a comment about rape and he's like, it's in our family or something like that. And I was just like, oh.
Yeah, it's
so, like, what? I don't know, just
such a, yeah. Yeah, I actually feel like before this movie, I have two twists in my mind. I don't want to say them just because, like, I don't know. But these two movies, or Incendies in particular, I suppose, with the actual twist, is probably like up there now with like 3 or 4 of the most awful movie twists. And not awful as in badly created or developed or produced or whatever, but just fucked up. Like, just truly like, oh my god, I thought my 15-year-old brain when I was writing stories was fucked. I don't know. I don't know. Holy shit. I'm so sheltered and innocent. And it's just, yeah. One thing, I can't remember. We'll just cut it if I said it earlier. But the best part of the film, not the best part, but the moment that I was like, can't wait for the time travel to kick in, was it just starts and it's like a tree and it's like beautiful countryside and we come into a house, it's holding the gun and then just the children being shaved. That's like perfect filmmaking. Like that first scene where just coming to him.
It's very him, very...
I think that's like, that stuff is the stuff that I like in, like, I don't know, like in Enemy and Blade Runner particularly. Because Blade Runner I feel like is a sad, dour movie about a man who wants to be the best man in the world and then halfway through they're like, you idiot. Why do you think you're the best man in the world? We all thought that. That's just what humans think. You're an idiot. We're all useless nothings. And he's like, oh. It's like got some pretty fucking heavy, sad themes, but I feel like it's overwhelmed by scenes and shots, like saying that first thing. They're just so well made that I'm overwhelmed with like, it's good filmmaking. Whereas this one was just too dour. That all the good filmmaking, I'm like, it's good filmmaking, fuck.
At what cost?
Yeah. Now I hate my life and I hate everything. I'm going to be sad forever. What have you done?
Would you recommend Incendies to anyone? Do you have like a particular set of, you know, because Predestination.
I'd recommend it to anyone.
Exactly.
We're rollicking fun, just chuck it on, good time. Incendies would probably be more likely to recommend it to my mum than like a mate.
Yeah.
Except for maybe one mate.
There's a very...
If you hadn't seen it, I'd recommend it to you probably. But I mean, obviously, yeah. But it's like, get your back. I'm just gonna Google awful movies with awful rape moments and just dourness, and just send them your way.
I think I'm addicted to melodrama. I think after looking up the definition of that word and realizing what it means and what I like, and thinking about the directors I love, like Christopher Nolan and Denis V. I love that. I've never heard that.
Oh, really?
Until you said it. But that's
it's
so
just,
good.
every time I say his last name, I kind of... I don't know. I got this a lot when I was overseas, and I just say something, and then someone look at me, I'm like,
you're so far off.
Yeah, I'm just so far off. I feel offensive. When I'm trying. Yeah, when I was in Germany, every time they were like, I remember I was in Amsterdam. These guys, these people like locals were trading me. I was just staying at the house view, and they were trying to tell me words, and I'd say one, and they're like, no, that's not it. I say it again. Say it again. They're like, yes, pronunciation's perfect. I'm like, I nailed it. And I say it again. They're like, it's the worst one yet. And I'm like, that's how I kind of feel like when I say Denis Villeneuve. So
yeah.
Denis V.
Villeneuve.
Yeah,
I think so.
And I'm sure I'm saying it right every time, but it's like,
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Denis V is
Dennis Villeneuve, though, is a great last name. But Denis V sounds like my mate, you know? Makes it sound like we're buddies. I don't know why I want that, I guess. He's clearly messed up and hates me. Releasing these movies, forcing me to watch them.
But maybe that's... I think maybe, like, watching these movies is just enlightened me to what I want. It's why Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie. And it's probably why Revenge of the Sith is my favorite prequel. Because they're just... And they're not completely hopeless. Like, there's something there.
Yeah, well, like, Incendies isn't actually completely hopeless. Like, the ending, as you said, is her overcoming it.
Yeah.
It's just I didn't overcome it. I'm not as zen as her. I'm still like, you shouldn't have.
It's a realization. She's like, yeah, I have 3 children in this intricate web, and they can all go now and probably kill each other. And you know what? The bad guy's probably going to win because he's like,
that's how it goes.
The best military dude ever. And this is the best. This is the best thing to do. End the cycle of violence and vengeance and revenge, and I love melodrama. I want more melodrama. I want to be tortured.
I feel like melodrama. Yeah, it's so interesting that you said that before with the actual definition because I don't know if people use that for forever.
Yeah, I think what they mean is soap opera, and what they're saying is melodrama.
When you say melodrama, my mind goes to Days of Our Lives or Neighbours or something like that, where it's very, very soap opera and it's very lovers, squirrels, and
it does technically fit that
insane.
definition, but then some of the greatest films of all time also fit that definition. So I'm not sure the word. I mean, why do we use words to convey points, to convey ideas? Yeah. That word is not conveying the right idea that people are using it for. And I mean, it just doesn't mean what it should mean. That's what language is.
Classic
Changes
words, though, just
exactly.
And shit, yeah.
I was reading a comment the other day and someone said prolly. Prolly.
Probably?
Yeah. And I read it and I knew exactly what it meant. And
I've never heard that.
I came to the realization that if people do this enough, the word will become that. And I read it and I knew exactly what they meant. They meant probably. And they just cut a couple of letters out. And it makes no difference.
Yeah, no,
I got the point they were making, but I hated the whole, you know?
It's in that thing where it's like the whole paragraph will just be like if it's if it's that, it'll be T and T to start and end the word, but the middle ones will be switched.
Yeah, and you still put it all together.
I remember reading that when I was like 10.
Yeah,
and it was it's like, I don't know if you ever know those people like at a family friend and on their bathroom, like you just go into the toilet, there's just shit everywhere and just reading it all. And as a kid, I was like, oh, there's so much stuff always, and I'm just reading that and just being like, and then at the end, being like, oh,
do people do that anymore? What? I feel like that was gone into a bathroom with a bunch of shit up.
I have phones now. My phone can do it.
That's so true.
Why would I put something on the wall? My phone's
that was such a 90s, 2000s
thing. When you said that, I was like, why is that gone?
Yeah, now
the person I'm thinking of is a hippie who didn't have a computer or the internet. That's why.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.